Good evening and welcome to a United Policyholders Roadmap to Recovery webinar, part of the series of education and support programs that we are offering to your community. Thanks to our funders, our volunteers, our staff, and all the expertise that we have built up over our 3+ decades of service to people who are impacted by wildfires. Excuse me. I'm so sorry for the circumstances that brought you here tonight, made it necessary for you to want to tune in and have your ears open to what we will be presenting. We know that there's a lot of information being offered to your community, and that's a wonderful thing. But I want you to know what's unique about us is really, there's a couple things. First of all, you can relax a little bit. You don't have to necessarily take notes because the slide deck that we will be going through tonight and this entire recording will be posted on our website within a couple days. Actually, the slide deck is already there. So if you want to follow along on your computer, you can do that, but just know that it'll be there for you to reference and go back if you miss something. A little bit about us. We have been around since 1991. The first wildfire that we brought help to people after was the 1991 Oakland Berkeley wildfire. And a lot of the programs that we are bringing to you in the Los Angeles area are built on the the needs people had back then, the information we curated to meet those needs, the programs we curated. And after every wildfire since, and there have been unfortunately very many of them, we have continued to fine tune the guidance that we offer you so that we can give you trustworthy, clear information that is in your best interest. Okay. We're a 501(c)(3. That means we're a nonprofit. We are not for profit, not for sale, meaning we don't take any money from insurance companies, but we have a lot of expertise on insurance. We're funded by donations and grants, and we have a 34-year track record of giving you the information that we're giving you tonight. We run 3 programs. The one that we're here through tonight, the Roadmap to Recovery. We also do preparedness work. And we do advocacy work. So for those of you who ended up on the FAIR plan or found yourselves underinsured, we have been fighting, pushing legislation, pushing regulations for decades to try to solve those problems. And while we've gotten some solutions, the marketplace has not been in good shape, as a lot of you know. And so we are constantly updating our information to make it current and realistic for what is, not the way we wish things were, but the way they are, to give you the best strategies to get through this very challenging process. Team up, we have professional staff. I'm part of that. Annie Barber, who you'll hear tonight, is also part of that. Ben Laturna, who's on tech tonight, is part of our staff. We also have a lot of government and nonprofit partners. We work with long-term recovery groups. We work with community organizations. We work with realtor organizations, the Department of Insurance, elected officials. And then we have a lot of volunteers, previous catastrophic loss survivors who used our programming, our information. It helped them. And then they paid forward to us the help that we gave them by joining our team as volunteers. Those are some of the people that you might have met at the local assistance center in the early weeks after the fires. We also have a lot of consumer-oriented professionals, lawyers that specialize in insurance, claim adjusters, both public adjusters and independent adjusters, tax and financial planning experts, construction and real estate professionals. Those are just some of the people that share a little bit of their expertise, like the folks that we have on our panel tonight. This is the library that we set up for you. We do our best to keep it up to date. And this is all the stuff that you can find there. And one of the things that's really valuable on there, in addition to the tips and the guidance, are the sample letters that you can customize to be a good communicator and be that squeaky wheel that gets treated fairly by your insurance company. A little bit of fine print. We are just here to give you general guidance, not legal advice. Although I am in fact a lawyer, I'm not here to give you legal advice. I'm here to give you general information. And our speakers are volunteering their time as educators. So I want to thank tonight's panel. We have a really strong group of very dialed in experts. Alex Athenson with the Foothill Catalog Foundation, Annie Barber, program liaison with United Policyholders, Kim Bauer with the Arts Group. If I pronounce that wrong, Kim, you'll correct me. Laura Blau with the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, Amy Christopherson Bolton with Christopherson Builders, Lori Gay with Neighborhood Housing Services, Los Angeles County, and Chris Wong with the Bank of America. These are the topics we're going to be covering tonight. And as I said, don't stress because the deck is going to be available for you to look at later whenever you want, right? So these are the topics we're going to go through. So before we go any further, I really encourage you to take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, maybe have a drink of water, and let the information come to you. Understand that in the 34 years that we've been doing this work and I have been building out the Roadmap to Recovery program, I have met a wide spectrum of people who've lost homes in wildfires. I've met people who said, I'm going to be the first one to rebuild on my block. I've met people who are mired in indecision for many, many months, sometimes years. I've met people who built the house they lost and want to rebuild. I've met people who want to flee and not be there. And we're not here to tell you what you should do. We're here to give you guidelines and signposts on your journey to just help you make the best decisions for your household. All right. So rebuilding help resources in the Los Angeles region, as you know, there are a lot. This website, recovery.lacounty.gov, if you haven't been on there, it's a phenomenal resource. There's a lot of programs like tonight's program that the county has offered. You can watch them, you can rewatch them. Workshops that they are offering and will be continuing to offer. Rebuilding consultation appointments that you can sign up for. This is for the Palisades fire area. And so we're just going to dig in now. Your rebuild budget and goals. Here's just a few things to avoid. Avoid paying off a low interest rate mortgage without a solid plan to rebuild or repair your home. Avoid launching a construction project without a game plan. Avoid rushing to hire a builder without due diligence. Avoid signing a time and materials contract without a detailed budget. It might not be acceptable to your lender. We're going to get into the weeds a little bit about all these things as we go tonight. And avoid unrealistic or incomplete rebuild estimates that will require multiple change orders, right? Here are some of the answers that you need before you launch your rebuild project. What's the as-was cost of rebuilding the home I lost? Now, if you are in the category of people whose insurance company has already cashed them out, I know the FAIR Plan has paid some very underinsured people their max limits and not required them to go through the depreciation replacement value process. Some insurers have already paid policy limits, especially to people who are underinsured. But for many people, in order to max out your insurance, you need to reach an agreement with your insurance company over what it would cost if you did rebuild the exact same home you lost. That in what we lawyers call the measure of indemnity, meaning the like, kind, and quality, right? The insurance company has insured what you had, right? There's an exception when it comes to code upgrades, but basically, if you haven't gotten that full payment, in most cases, you are in a negotiation with your insurance company over what they owe you, right? So that's one thing that you need to know. This next thing you need to know, what's the maximum amount of insurance available in my policy? We're going to go through a couple of tools that can help you there. Does the estimated cost of replacing the home I had with one of like, kind, and quality meet or exceed my policy limits? Can I max out? How much do we owe on the mortgage? if I max out my insurance benefits, will that be enough to cover the cost of rebuilding the home I had or the one I want to rebuild? Now, you don't have to rebuild the exact same home, but the measure of what the insurance company owes you is limited to what it would cost to put back the home you had up to your policy limits, right? And then, of course, if you have a gap if you're underinsured, where will you get the funds to fill that gap to be able to rebuild? And I know that so many people in this situation are underinsured, and it's a heartbreaker. And so that's why we have Lori Gay on here. That's why we have Chris Wong on here, because a lot of people, if you did not get an SBA loan, you are looking at other loan options. So the policy benefits to replace your dwelling, you're basically talking about your dwelling benefits, your other structures, your law and ordinance code upgrades. By law, every policy should have 10% as a minimum of code upgrade to cover those improvements that you have to make in order to bring your home up to building codes, current codes, and get that permit that you need. Inflation adjustment is usually not a whole lot of money, but it's something, right? Every dollar counts here. And then if you have extended replacement cost coverage, that will be part of your budget, right? Now, a lot of people end up using their contents coverage or some of their contents towards their rebuild. Obviously, with debris removal, it really depends on how much debris removal coverage you had, whether you participated in the coordinated debris removal program. But in general, we advised people early on to, whichever way you went, if you did the coordinated debris removal, you want to hold on to that insurance money just in case the county comes back and says, we need some of that money. All right. I think by now you all know what a declaration page looks like, but this is just an example of what you'd be looking at, right? This person has their dwelling limit, then they have an extension, then they have they had the ordinance and law is another way of saying code upgrade. Again, I know your community is quite sophisticated at this point. You've gotten a lot of education from us and a lot of other sources. A lot of insurance terms, there's the same words to describe, two different words to describe something, right? So law and ordinance, building code upgrade, same thing, right? This one refers to it as ordinance and law, same thing. This person has 25%, so more than the required 10% minimum. But this is just math that you have to do to figure out what your budget is going to be. So this is a tool that has been built by a group that started after your fire, postfire.org. It's a rebuild calculator. You can use it to figure out how much money you have in your insurance policy, and then you can add in these other sources, and that is the website link for you to visit to play around with that tool. Now, California law does allow you to combine coverages, right? But it's only the one, it's a little, people get excited thinking, oh, I can combine all my coverages. It really only is other structures and dwelling, right? So other structures is that bucket for your garage, outbuildings, pool, walkways, things that are separated from the physical structure, retaining walls. And a lot of people pay for other structures coverage because it's automatically included in the policy, but they don't actually have those other structures. So the law, and this is one of those many reforms that United Policyholders has helped put into place to try to help wildfire survivors, the law says you don't need to replace another structure in order to take that bucket that you paid for and add it to your dwelling coverage, to add to your rebuild budget. So collecting maximum available insurance benefits towards your rebuild budget, as I said earlier, the cost of replacing as was and your available dwelling, other structures, code upgrade, and any extended coverages, that's your budget, right? Now, a couple things I want to be very clear about. Your adjuster may have used something called Exactware, a software program, or another software program, Symbility, to estimate your cost to replace the dwelling you lost and tell you what they think they owe you. We recommend that you get an independent estimate or bid because the insurer's number is not the final word. It's just an estimate. You can get another estimate. Ideally, you and your insurer should agree on what we call a scope of loss. A scope of loss for the as was, right? That would be how many rooms, what type of flooring, what type of countertops, details, material qualities, quantities that were in the original home. And we have a publication you can reference to help you with that, with what that means and what you could do. Because when we say get an independent estimate or bid, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. And some people are able to kind of do it on their own. Most people need professional help because you're not familiar with pricing, and it's very hard to know how to really challenge the insurance company's scope. You know it's low because you get an estimate from a builder that says it's low. The devil can be in the details, and you have to prove it. And as I said, you don't have to rebuild an identical home, but your insurance payout will be based on like, kind, and quality to what you lost. Code upgrades need to be listed separately. These are just a few examples of code upgrades. There are professional scope and estimate providers that will help, that will prepare you that as was scope and estimate so that you can bring that to your insurer and say, you're low, you're off, and then this is where you're off. So these are just two, this is one place you can go, that the website on the left, or you can go to our Find Help directory. You can go to Recovery Help. There's a drop-down menu. You go to California, drop-down menu, residential loss valuation services, and there are a whole bunch of them. This is just a screenshot. There's a whole bunch of outfits that you can pay. And so paying for your rebuild. And I promise you, you're not going to hear my voice all night. We just have to get through this original portion because this is the threshold for you, right? How much money are you going to have? And I know you're all thinking about it, or maybe you already feel like you know. But we want to make sure you understand because we want you to max out on your insurance. And I know you do too. So paying for your rebuild, insurance funds, how will your insurer be involved in paying? Sometimes they won't be involved at all. It depends where you are on your claim and how much they have committed to pay before you get started. You may be able to settle out with your insurer, hire a builder, and use your insurance proceeds. In most cases, you're going to have a lender involved and they're going to have a role. We recommend that you talk to an expert, a CPA, a financial advisor, about your existing mortgage versus new or refinancing. If you're underinsured, where can additional funds come from? An SBA loan, which if you haven't gotten it now, you're not going to be able to get one now. A loan from a bank or a credit union, savings, retirement funds, gap funding and loans. We have a representative of a prominent CDFI, a community development financial institution in your area that is very involved in trying to bring solutions for those of you who are underinsured. There are some new NGOs, non-government nonprofits, that have formed post-wildfire, such as the Altadena Land Initiative. They are very close to opening up for applications for very, very good financing options. There are lawsuit settlements that some of you may be seeing, and then there's the SoCal Edison settlement funds. Lori, thank you so much for joining us. Talk to us a little bit about the resources, please, that your organization is bringing, and this slide.
Thanks so much for having us, Amy. Glad to be here. Sorry we're here, but there's help on the way for each of you. We don't want you to be discouraged about it. All of us are jumping in to do our best. Neighborhood Housing Services is known as the region's largest affordable homeownership provider. And we've been that for more than 40 years, so we're here to serve. We're trying our best to bring 1,000 families home. And if we hit 1,000, we'll start on the next group. So I think the way we do that is with a large coalition of technical service providers. And that includes some of the banks you see on the slide who are willing to provide loans. Our entity, we're one of those CDFIs Amy mentioned. We've been the mortgage group in the region for all these years. And so we look at things and say, how do we get you back with low cost, sustainable financing if that's what you need? And or how do we get you back with all the grants that are in place, right? That other settlement and other funds that was shown on the doc a couple of slides back. And so we're focused on three things that we do and provide: financial education, counseling, case management, all the way through to the day you walk in with your keys. And then post of that, how to remain a great homeowner. Lending as a CDFI, we're the affordable group, and we package and put together all kinds of stuff to make loans low cost. For fire survivors, we've been very focused on lots of grants. We've given away millions of dollars already to help people stay in place wherever they are. But the other side of that is, are there grant programs that are available as you look at just the rebuild portion that we can be adding to your stack, as we call it, your stack of funding? Um, in that space, I just say to you that the settlement is something in the Eaton Fire Zone people need to take very seriously. And so for every person who's been a client of ours, we're somewhere over 700 clients that are active right now in our pipeline. We're going backward with them to see how the settlement offer applies to them. We don't take money, I'm like Amy, from SC. I don't know anything about that. But what I do know is that if there's money that's on the table, you have to consider it like a deck of cards. It's who's going to pay you and help you get back home. And so we're working with people to figure that out. One of the ways we do that is through multiple events. Other people like one-to-one counseling. We were at the library in Eaton Fire Zone for the last 5.5 months, pretty much every day, trying to help people. We're now at the collaboratory at 540 Woodbury in Altadena, and we'll keep making more space available to talk to you, right? Because every single one of you has a different rebuild opportunity. The other thing I'd say is, if you end up borrowing from a group like NHS, we generally are going to run, depending on what we're doing, from 0% to 5% fixed for up to 30 years. It just depends on what we're doing. And everyone needs to stay in their home. That's how we think. So how do we get you back? How do we help get you back? How do we tell you the truth about borrowing if you need to borrow? If you've got enough insurance money that you don't need to borrow, don't do it, right? If you can do it. And most people haven't told us that, as you can imagine. But I think the goal is to bring you home. And so we build ADUs, we build homes, we do prefab, we do modular as a developer, our other side. And we do real estate, right? So the thinking is, you can come plug in and exit with us anywhere you want. And we're here to be available for that. We don't slight the fact that we may not do every piece of your rebuild. Last thing I'd like to mention there as well is our project management services ServUp. I didn't know if I saw that, Amy, in the slide, so I want to mention it. But we're that other estimate. So our disaster relief response was free financial counseling and free estimating, right? That doing that work write-up. And hundreds and hundreds of people came to us for that. The next space in all of that is getting you towards your rebuild. We are doing an event on the 13th of December if you want to come sit with a bunch of us through our coalition. And we're at the collaboratory, the Eaton Fire Collaborative space at 540 West Woodbury. And you can come over. We're going to be there. It's a weird time, I think, based on the availability of the site, but 10:30 to 4, you can drop in anytime. And there'll be, like 60 groups there that are focused on the counseling, the affordable loans or grants, and then that redevelopment space, technicians, architects. It's no charge, lots of food, no charge. And we're active, right, to try to get as many families home as we can. I'll stop there, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm going to go back and ask Chris Wong with Bank of America to talk to us about what kind of a loan, a commercial loan you would get from a traditional bank like B of A, and how you're working with your borrowers who already had a mortgage. So thank you for joining us, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Amy, and appreciate everyone's time this evening. So, echoing what Lori mentioned, there's a whole host of resources out there that we are looking to provide. And that's inclusive of Bank of America and, quite frankly, the overall banking industry. So, I can speak, on behalf of the bank and my peers in terms of the fact that at the end of the day, what you want to do is, if you haven't already, be in contact with your bank who has the mortgage. And from there, there's a lot of conversations happening, whether it's the insurance proceeds that the bank may have in conjunction with, the loan. There's also, as you start to think about rebuilding, what are the options in terms of covering that cost from an underinsured point of view, right? So be in contact with your bank. There should be representatives already. If they have not reached out, you're already reaching out to them, vice versa. But they're always available in terms of, okay, what are my options? What can I do? Speaking for Bank of America, we have a case manager assigned, a teammate assigned to every single client to handle, their loan and their rebuild. And when the time comes, that's where we can provide you options and, specific, guidance as it relates to the rebuild, because, let's be honest, every case is going to be different. And so that's where you being able to talk to your bank is going to be super helpful along the way.
Yeah, thank you. And we will be getting into a little bit of when you have a lender in the mix and they've got some of your insurance funds held in escrow, what kind of a role they will have in during the project. Thank you so much, Chris and Lori. Now, I have asked Ben to put in the chat, and it may take him a minute, the link to the Roadmap to Recovery webinar that we offered earlier this year on remedies for the underinsured. You saw that on that last slide, we mentioned lawsuit settlement. If you are underinsured through no fault of your own, and you relied on very clear assurances from your insurance company or the agent or broker that sold you the policy that you had enough insurance to put your home back in the event of a total loss, and you have some kind of proof of that, an email, a letter, there may be a legal remedy for you. And we went into great detail about that and your options in a webinar earlier this year, which you can find on our website, but we will make sure that we get that link in the chat before the end of the program. Okay, designing your project and rebuilding an insurable home. Well, why do we even talk about that? Well, I'll explain it in a minute. Rebuilding an insurable home. Your options, they include a traditional, what people call stick-built custom home, a production home, which we'll talk a little bit about. Annie can talk about that a bit. That would be a company that has a limited number of designs and you pick one of them. Group rebuilds, again, this would be a company that offers, say, 5 or 6 type of options in a given area. It's only really works in areas that have, say, cul-de-sacs and sort of planned development areas, but where you can get together with a group of your neighbors, pick from a number of options, and then you can get some economies of scale by the builder, buying materials in bulk and having fewer trucks and all that. It's not always an option in every area, but it is a good option for people who are underinsured and are in an area with a lot of similar homes. Then there are prefab homes that is sort of the options today are not your grandmother's prefab homes. There's a lot of really cool new options for modular and prefab homes. And then there's the design build option, which we will be talking about here. So I was very happy to get Amy Christopherson Bolton to be on our panel tonight because her company is a family builder company based in the North Bay up in Sonoma, California. And as I said earlier, in 2017, when 7,000 homes went down in a really tragic wildfire, her company had to really ramp up because they were so embedded in the community that they really wanted to meet as much of the demand as they could, even though they're a modest-sized family-owned business. Now, Amy, thank you so much for joining. I know that you are you're either physically in LA now or you've been in LA. Walk us through what we're looking at here. Amy, you are a builder of what I call traditional stick-built custom homes, yes? Yes.
Custom, semi-custom, design build, we do it all. Yeah.
Okay. So Amy, thank you for building on this a smaller kind of version of this. Walk us through for the people who are with us tonight. What is this diagram? Walk us through it.
Yeah, so this diagram is my attempt to be as clear and not confusing for people looking to rebuild because it is it's a complex process for sure. And so step by step, people either come to you as a builder or they have an architect. It's generally one of those two ways they start the process. My advice is if you are engaging an architect to connect pretty early with the builder so you can get cost guidance. You know, it's sad when people design a home that they fall in love with it. They're designing it over months only to find out that it's too expensive for them to build. So having that kind of guardrails to keep you on budget is really important. Property survey is also very important in not only for boundaries, because especially in Altadena, there's a lot of boundary issues going on, but the topography. You have to design the home and the foundation to the topography. Geotechnical is not required in most areas, but I think it's a good idea because that way you have to ensure that your foundation is being designed properly for your soil. So then now you have all this information. You first go into conceptual design. It's where you will work with your architect to come up with your plan that you like. It'll be a floor plan, so a bunch of lines, 2D on a piece of paper, and then the exterior. Once you have that, then get your cost estimation, which I was mentioning earlier. It's just a gut check, right? You don't want to launch into this big, long, construction drawings and engineering and plan submittal only to know that doesn't meet your budget. For us, after that point, once you kind of set your cost, in construction contract, most builders will require a construction contract before you go into the planning process. In LA here, you have two pieces. You have the planning piece, and then you have the building and fire piece. It's a good idea to do your finishes, select your finishes up front. First of all, you get everything nailed down. Second of all, you'll have less confusion when you move into the process. I'm a big fan of having everything set and tied into a bow and everyone's clear before you start construction. Because I've seen too many times if you try to start just to get going, because you really want to get going, and then it becomes chaos in the back end. No one's sure, what's been paid for, what's been chosen, how pricing varies. It can become a mess. So yeah, then after that, permits and construction.
Well, thank you. And we'll be coming back to you when we get into, some more of these details of finding and vetting a builder and avoiding problems and the different kinds of contracts. But that's a really good overview. Kim Bauer, thank you so much for joining us. Is it Arts Group or Artist Group?
Artist group.
Artist Group. So right out of the gate, I had it wrong. So talk to us about this picture and welcome.
Thank you. And I'm glad to be here. I have walked in your shoes. You can see this picture here. My husband and business partner of 30 years, well, we've been together 40 years now, but business partner for 30 years. We started in this business, ironically, because we lost our home in the Laguna Beach fires. So this is a picture of him standing on our property. The feeling of loss never goes away. It just becomes part of your story. But there were a couple, this was such a big defining moment in our lives because we wanted to rebuild. We had just gotten married. We wanted to start our family. And we were in Laguna Beach, coastal committee, design review, all kinds of crazy things. And we were not in the building industry at the time. So we just gave up after about 2 years. We gave up, and it was a great time to buy foreclosures. So we bought a 10,000 square foot fixer upper and spent the next 3 years of our life trying to do that project. But as a result, we discovered that we love this business. And over the last three decades, we've designed and built condominiums, award-winning luxury home communities, custom homes. We've been involved with the construction and entitlement of probably over 10,000 homes at this point. So
Wow.
we're currently working with quite a few families in Altadena to rebuild their homes. And it's a great time for us. We would like to wind down our careers in the next 5 to 10 years. And we're in a perfect position right now to help people that are going through this horrible event get through it. We are a licensed general contractor. We're a development company. And I tried to put myself in your frame of mind, like the three biggest things that I wish we would have known when we were sitting in your shoes with zero expertise or experience in this industry. So the first thing was the right order. It is so important. You guys have all had the rug pulled out from underneath you. I know that probably 99% of you never even contemplated building a custom home. So the most important thing that you can understand is to manage the budget that you have to rebuild. Everything has to be done in a very precise sequence. You're doing everything you possibly can to eliminate change orders in the field. So even though there's a lot of emphasis right now on fast tracking through the permits, we have a little different philosophy. I have studied our projects over these 10,000 or so homes that we've built, and it's better to spend more time in developing the plans and a really tight building information model, a BIM model, getting everything ironed out before you step into the field. So if we have time, I'll talk about that a little bit more. The second thing is, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't go to a builder or an architect. The absolute first thing I would do is hire an owner's rep. You need somebody to get you through this process. You really can't do it alone. I remember what we were going through, fighting with the insurance company, trying to find alternative financing, just rebuilding your life and getting some stability. So an owner's rep is your advocate that you hire. They're a fiduciary for you. They need to be a licensed general contractor to be an owner's rep, and they handhold you through the entire process. They help you write all the contracts. They help you build all the scopes of work that you need to get your house done. They make sure the team is working together and your submittal packages are correctly put together. They help you with pre-construction bidding and planning. So this is somebody that's going to be with you from the very beginning, and they can also help you review your insurance estimates and things like that. So we have really sophisticated construction modeling tools. It's based on nationwide database of building costs, LA specific building costs, and all the fees that we've paid over 30 years of construction. So we use that to help our clients understand what it's really going to cost to build a home. And then the third thing,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay. The third thing is, how do you get to the real number? I know all that you want to know at the beginning is how much is it going to cost. And if you're talking to builders, you're only getting one small piece of that cost. So you have to understand that a construction budget needs to include hard costs, soft costs, and carrying costs. And you must know that number before you start.
Okay,
And
Kim,
you
what
also,
are, what, I know what hard costs are, and I know what soft
yes,
costs are. What you pay to human beings, and materials.
all the people
What are
with degrees.
carrying costs?
The carrying costs would be, you have to take any money that you've pulled out of your bank account, your retirement accounts, even though that's your money, that's your cash, there's an opportunity cost that goes along with using that money towards a house rather than keeping it in investments.
I
So that's
gotcha.
one component of carrying costs.
Okay,
Another is truly just the loans that you have to take out to fill the gap.
okay,
So you really need to understand that entire number. And then another thing that I really wish we would have known is that the budget on a construction project really evolves in three very distinct phases. At the beginning, all you can do is a pro forma, but you want to build that pro forma using real cost data, the conditions that are specific to your home, like how many square feet, the style of architecture, how complex your site is. There are ways that we can build a pro forma number at the beginning, but think about it. You don't have a house design at that point. So if you're not working with somebody that truly knows how to develop a pro forma budget, the numbers you're getting are, a hope and a prayer. So
okay,
once you're at the beginning and you get that pro forma budget, then as you start to go through the design phase and you submit your plans, we go to what we call the unit cost allocation budget. So as soon as those plans go in for permitting, then we can start to look at takeoffs, like how many square feet of flooring are you going to use? How much tile are you going to be putting in? How many square feet of painting? So it's all based on a unit cost, but it's very specific to your home design because you just submitted your plans. So now we're starting to have something very tangible. And then after you get your permits approved and it comes back to you, the budget moves into phase 3, which is what we call the schedule of values. So now you've got your construction documents, you've got all your material specifications, and this is a point in time where you want to start talking to a builder. You really don't need the builder on board until if you're working with an owner's rep, you don't need the builder on board until you've gotten through your permitting and you're going into pre-construction planning. So at that point in time, your budget is solid because you're bidding it out and you're issuing contracts. So for an owner's rep, could you go back to that prior slide? The one that has a wave on it. Okay, I want to talk about this a little bit. Going back to that right steps in the right order, building is a wave. Going through the custom home building process is a wave of ups and downs and emotions. And so most people start kind of down at step number 6, building. But the phase that everybody that has gone through a fire is in right now is you're kind of on this down slope in the preparing phase. And you may feel like you've already hit rock bottom. I mean, emotionally, you might be at that point on the wave. But if you're going to do this in the right order, get an owner's rep and go through a formal process for visualizing what you want from your home. It's the most important thing you can do. Whether you're doing it by yourself or you're doing it with a spouse, you've got to be on the same page and you've got to go through that process. We have a free program that we're offering for that. It's an online program. We've taken all our fire clients through it, and they've all thanked us because this is really the starting point. And then you move through, if you don't mind going back to the wave.
I'm sorry, we have so much to get through. Can you, because I
Sure.
think you have a very specific view about an owner's rep, and I think you know, we're speaking to an audience of people who are going to go with lots of different approaches. So I was just hoping we could just stick on that so that everybody is clear of what you mean by that.
Yeah. So an owner's rep, basically, like I said, they're on your internal team of people. They're not your creative staff. They're managing your creative staff. They're going to be with you the entire time. They're going to make sure that you're going to be in plan check for about 70 to 75 days based on the current statistics in Altadena. So an owner's rep will help you make the most of that time in planning. That basically what you're going to do is you're going to be taking that time when the plans are out of hand, you're going to start doing value engineering on your project. That's probably an unfamiliar term, but that's where you look at the 4 or 5 really big line items in a budget, like the framing, the windows, the foundation, and you figure out ways to take the costs out of those items without sacrificing the design. So
Gotcha.
owner's rep will be working on that with you through your permitting phase, and then they'll also be working, they'll move you into pre-construction where you can start bidding everything out.
Okay, so I want to be really clear. We're talking here about a custom home. We're talking about designed from the ground up, and so some of this will not apply if you are, say,
Right.
doing one of the other options that we're going to be talking about. Kim, if I rushed you through, I apologize. I just wanted to. We will.
There's too much to talk about here.
Yes. So we will. You will have a chance if we've left something out.
No
The another one of the really innovative and opportunities that you now have through all the wonderful groups and organizations that are coming up with programs to help people get back into homes is the City Lab associated with UCLA. And they are going to have an interactive showcase. Actually, it's open now, and you can go see some of the designs, the prefab modular designs, and you can ask them questions about how easy it is to get one of their prefab homes through the county and all that. And then we're going to talk a little bit now about design build and Amy, I know you mentioned your company does both custom and design build. I'm going to give Alex Athenson a chance with the Foothill Catalog Foundation to talk about theirs, and then I do want to come back to you and let you talk a little bit because I think we heard from Kim about the approach if you're doing a custom home and you're going to have a whole team with an architect, and maybe you're going to have different people that you're working with that aren't part of the same company, and so they need to be coordinated through an owner's rep. We're going to talk about some of the more simpler approaches that people can take where it's more of you hire one outfit that's integrated. So Alex, talk to us about what you guys are up to down there.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. My name's Alex Athenson. I'm a licensed architect based here in Pasadena, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Foothill Catalog Foundation. And the Foothill Catalog Foundation, we're a nonprofit organization with the sole mission to develop a collection or a catalog of pre-approved home designs to allow residents to rebuild more efficiently, resiliently, but affordably, and with predictability in the process. But with a special emphasis on maintaining the regional character, the identity of place, cultural heritage. That's really important and a priority for a lot of us, especially in the Pasadena-Altina community, and I know in the Palisades community as well. So I'll really briefly talk on kind of how the catalog approach to building is kind of a unique kind of model that people can choose and the pros and cons of kind of what that means. So, ultimately our mission as a nonprofit organization is to retain as many homeowners as possible, make this process more predictable, easier to navigate, and through that predictability, create a lot of efficiencies in time and cost, and just in the amount of bandwidth, especially emotionally, psychologically, make this process easier to retain as many original homeowners as possible, but also retain the spirit of the place, the spirit of our communities. So the catalog model, what we're presenting and what the Foothill Catalog is developing is a series of different home options, ranging from different sizes, different styles, different configurations that are geared specifically towards Altadena in this first wave, and these designs you see here, ranging from 400 square foot ADUs all the way up to 2,000 square foot and beyond homes. And so what I'll get a little bit more into kind of the pre-approval process, but what this allows you to do is that process that Kim explained that is typical of a single family residential home build is often, within a non-disaster situation, is often geared towards a luxury market where you're bringing on a large team to develop the plan, to work through concept designs, to find out what the perfect home will be. That's a custom solution for you and your family. And then you go through a custom permitting phase and a custom build phase. And all of these things are geared specifically to be an individual custom solution. But it often takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money too. So before the fires, this is a multi-year process and is really geared towards really wealthy individuals who are doing more luxury products. So now, as forming this nonprofit post-fire, we're trying to develop a situation where we can make this process more attainable for people that might not need a custom home, might not need to start with a blank sheet of paper and go through that entire process, but are looking for a home that does not sacrifice on quality of construction, quality of aesthetics, but also sustainability and resiliency, which are all equally important. So what the catalog model does is essentially give homeowners a head start through this process and provides designs that are pre-approved through LA County or LA City so that the custom design phase is eliminated from the process. 75–80% of the custom permitting process is eliminated from the homeowner journey. And by selecting a design, what the Foothill Catalog is doing as a nonprofit organization is providing consultations and assessing people's lot requirements, assessing budget requirements, and connecting people with various partners like Laureate NHS or United Policyholders to help figure out financial solutions, insurance solutions, but with the Foothill Catalog providing the architectural solution to really provide clarity on the front end and the back end of your build. And then the process of selecting a catalog home and then submitting it for a permit is as simple as submitting a single-page site plan to the county. And that's kind of because of the work we've done to assess all the architectural, all the structural, all the energy requirements for what it takes to build a home in LA County or LA City in 2025. And we're seeing those, the county is dedicated to getting those site plans through planning, through building and safety within 2 weeks before going to agency referral and getting shovels in the ground as soon as possible with a very predictable pre-approved plan. So Amy, there's a couple more slides just on the pre-approval process, a little bit what I elaborated. What we're doing as a nonprofit is doing all this design work, all this pre-approval work before the homeowner has to get involved. So taking that burden of the process off of the shoulders of homeowners looking to rebuild. And so it's not a custom solution. So a lot of people who need a very custom home for either something, some site irregularities, or want something very specific. There's pros and cons to each solution, but what we can offer is a real head start through the process, but by providing enough variety in sizes, styles, and configurations. We have about 20 designs pre-approved with LA County currently, and our target is 50 for the Altadena area, and we're getting started in LA City as well. So that can really streamline the rebuilding process and make it really more predictable, not only the time, but the cost, and really just lighten the load in terms of process of what it will take to get back in people's homes and back in their community.
Gotcha.
So I'll leave it
Gotcha.
at that. Thanks, Amy.
Oh,
And
okay, thank you.
some more
I thought,
details, but
yeah,
fine.
so I think this is a good segue for me to go back for a minute to Amy. I think a lot about, I use this a lot, the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. There was the Papa Bear's chair, the Mama Bear's chair, and the Baby Bear's chair. And each of those chairs may be right for your household, and it's very, it's I think a lot of the journey we're all on here is finding the right size chair for each household, given their resources, given their situation, their energy level, so Amy, we talked a little bit. We heard Kim talk about, for a custom home, putting your team together. We heard Alex talk about this innovative approach. But let's go back to kind of, I think of you as a sort of a classic construction company that that does typical rebuilds after wildfires. You said you guys do design build. So what does that mean? I think of design build as meaning you have an in-house architect. Is that right?
It's really kind of taking a production mindset almost to custom home building. So it's we don't have an in-house architect, but we do work with a number of architects. And so
Okay.
the idea is, and especially given the parameters and the restrictions that the county has on what you can and can't rebuild, what you can and can't rebuild, it seems that this is really, a lot of people are looking for something a little more customizable. So you meet someone, when you meet with somebody, you understand what they're looking for. You pretty quickly connect them with an architect, which who might be a good fit. It's not a process which takes months. It's really kind of quick. Like we target a month max for people to land on their plan design that they want. Then once they get that, you price it out, and they can go and they can choose all their finishes they want. They can, design the exterior in any way. I always refer to these homes as paper dolls because you can have the Spanish, you can have the modern, craftsman, farmhouse, all those things. But it allows you to get a home that you want at a more reasonable price. So it's kind of like you said, in between the Alex and the artist group.
Okay. Great. All right. We've got still lots more ground to cover. And what I want to move to, and thank you, Amy, is the topic that we mentioned earlier of rebuilding a home that will be insurable. So, look, it's not a mystery to anybody or a surprise that the California home insurance market has not been in great shape in the last 5 years. A lot of people who had been insured with one company for a long time lost their insurance. Many people have ended up in the FAIR plan. And our organization has been working tirelessly to bring solutions. But one thing that everybody agrees on is that that one of the reasons, there are many reasons why the insurance market has not been in good shape, but one reason is insurance companies are very, very worried about wildfire risk. They are, and they have reason to be. Have had some incredibly horrible, devastating, expensive wildfires in the last couple of decades. So they have gotten much pickier about the homes that they will insure. And when you rebuild, we want you to be able to insure that home at a price that you'll be able to afford. So we invited Laura Blau from the IBHS, the Insurance Institute of Business and Home Safety, to just give us a little quick review of the features that you need to pay attention to and incorporate into your project so that when it's done, your home will be less likely to be damaged by a wildfire or destroyed, and you will have access to better insurance options. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Amy. Good evening, everyone. So IBHS is an independent nonprofit research organization. We're funded by the insurance companies. And like Amy said, they're looking for solutions. And so that we've been working for 40 years on wind, rain, and hail. And for the last 10 years, we added wildfire. And so in 2022, we came up with a program. And how we do our research, you'll see right there our research facility in South Carolina. That weird looking thing looks on the end is a wall of fans. It can generate winds up to 130 miles an hour. And we do three things for our research. We see what's already out there in academia and private research companies, and then we build a full-scale home inside of our research facility, and then we light a trench on fire between the home and the fans, and we blow embers at it, and we figure out how homes fail, and more importantly, what we can do about it. And then we take our research out into the field. We go to all the major fires throughout the United States, and we compare what we learned in our lab, in our research, to on-the-ground post-fire analysis. And we translate all of this science into mitigations that matter in the term of programs. Next slide.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Right.
And so this is what we come up with. All of our research leads to, we have two things. We have two dials to play with. One is we have to reduce the exposure that a home sees from wildfire and increase the resilience of that home. And reducing the exposure is removing things that are combustible that are near your home, especially in the 5 feet around your home. And then you can see on there's a combustible fence, a wooden fence. That's like a wick. So the fire burns along that fence and brings the fire right to your home. So if you can interrupt that with non-combustible fencing, so you're replacing at least the last 5 feet closest to your home with another material, and then reducing. So you want to reduce the vegetation in your yard. This is actually the first wildfire prepared home. It's a rebuild in paradise. So her vegetation isn't grown up yet. This is right after the fire and right after her rebuild, but she's got a beautiful yard now. It just doesn't have thick vegetation right next to her home. And then the second dial is increasing the resilience. And that brings us to the programs, which are Wildfire Prepared Home Base, which is that red box at the bottom. And that is how the materials that you choose for your home for ember resistance. And then that blue box, and the vertical blue box, is Wildfire Prepared Plus. And that is a fairly inexpensive rebuild. We just finished a project with Headwaters Economics. It adds about 3% to the cost, which is about $50 on a 30-year mortgage, $50 a month. So, you can see the components there. The next slide is going to go into a little bit more detail on that. But once you do,
Oh, okay.
well,
Did
that's okay. I can still talk about it, Amy. On this.
Okay.
Once you meet the requirements of either base or plus, you apply through our website and we will review it. We'll send a third-party inspector out to your home and we'll issue you a certificate. And that certificate is peace of mind for you that you meet the requirements of a wildfire prepared home. And number two, it's something that you can share with your insurance company for discounts. And this is the difference. These are the main differences between if you lost your home and you were in a very high fire hazard severity zone, your rebuild will be to something that's called the California Building Code Chapter 7A, which is probably the strongest building code for wildfire areas in the country, but it does leave some gaps. Our research, we tested 7A built homes and there were quite a few gaps and failures. So that's where plus comes in, and you'll see that in the left-hand column. And those items, if you do things, the small differences, cover your gutters so that any debris that collects in the gutters can't ignite. If you are using dual pane glass, like the energy code mostly requires in California, you make sure both panes are tempered instead of just one. You make sure you have non-combustible decks and attachments to your home, porches, pergolas. And fencing, you'll see that orange box there. Fencing isn't part of the building code, but we do want to see non-combustible fencing within 5 feet of your home, if not all around your home. And then if you have an ADU, it needs to be 30 feet away.
So the bottom line is make sure that your builder is aware of the list on the left and that they incorporate that so that the project that you complete will, when you apply for the Wildfire Prepared Home Certificate, you will get it. So thank you, Laura. We are going to have to really speed through because we have a lot more material to cover. I was hoping to get us out at the half hour. I I appreciate, I might have been a little ambitious here. So let's go. We're just going to do this. So Annie, you want to walk us through a couple of these slides?
Yeah, so just to preface this, I lost my home in the Tubbs fire in 2017 in Coffee Park. That's where I first started learning about things that could go wrong. And as I've said on long-term recovery groups, these things have reared their ugly heads time and time again. So when you're looking for a builder, you want to make sure you have good communication. It's been described as a short-term marriage. You need to do your homework and proceed with caution. Please don't take a builder because your neighbor probably vetted them. You need to do it yourself. This is, again, your biggest investment. Check at least 3 references. Make sure they're for a complete build, not for a remodel. And call those people and ask them the questions of you know, not just, are you happy to be home? Everybody's happy to be home. Check their license status on the California State Licensing Board. When you're there, check that they have workman's comp insurance and check their bond. Their bond is something you have to click on. It should go year to year or 2 years to 2 years, just like an insurance policy. And in many cases, if there's been a break, there may have been some sort of mediation and they lost and did not take care of the consumer properly. Check with the Better Business Bureau, Google them, Yelp. Please Google their name and their business, because in the big picture of things, if there's nothing on their record, they may have had a newspaper article about them. Time and time again in communities, they have nothing on their record, even though it may have been escalated all the way up to the California State Licensing Board and mediation. So good sources for finding a reputable builder.
Lori, you want to speak to that? Good. What's a good source for finding a reputable builder?
I was going to say we use the California State License Board.
Okay.
We certainly vet contractors on an ongoing basis as a part of our project management service work. And that whole detail is a lot of people don't want to think about all this,
Right.
and they feel overwhelmed. And so project management services, I've seen them ranging in the area, Amy, from 18 to 24%. So we came out with a 5% project management fee, just at cost kind of thing, because the nonprofit sector, we try to just cover our basic costs and not
Right.
make big wins, right, on the profitable side. But people
Right.
need to know that, particularly our seniors, if they're struggling, they can go on the contractor state license board and look through to see if their contractor's there, look at their license, bonding, all that. But if they
Right.
want help, they can call us for free. We'll sit down and walk it through. And if their contractor wants to get vetted to be on an approved contractor list that a number of our CDFIs and others are using, they can do that. Thanks.
Right. So Lori, I'm sorry, not Lori, Amy. I asked this question, does a builder have to be local? Like you're from Northern Cal, but you're building down south. Should people be worried about that?
I think it depends, on the builder, how stable they are. Like when Annie's talking about when she lost her home, we were just flooded with people coming in from all over the country. And yeah, that's a problem because a lot of people just picked up and left. So I think that if they were only going to be relying on local builders to rebuild after these huge disasters that happened earlier this year, it would take way too long. So I think, frankly, they need people coming in. That said, you want to make sure that your builder is stable. They'll be around to service your house.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Lori mentioned project management. Kim, is that different? Having a project manager versus an owner's rep, is that 2 different things?
The construction, yes, they are. Construction management and owner's rep are 2 different things. A construction manager, we usually advise that people have a construction manager that works directly for them, like directly for the homeowner, to help supervise the builder. And the biggest challenge we have in the industry right now is quality of labor and quality of senior production managers. And a lot of builders are spreading that senior staff way too thin. So when a construction manager can help is if your builder is very busy, you may want to hire, as the homeowner, a construction manager that works on your behalf during construction to help you get through the pre-construction planning and through the entire building process. An owner's rep is a little bit different because the owner's rep will be with you from the very beginning of the project.
Okay.
Their job is basically to act on your behalf as your voice and your point of contact and make sure everything is done properly throughout the entire process. So we do view them differently. I know Amy and Lori might have different experiences with construction managers, but that's how we
Yeah.
recommend them.
Thank you. I mean, I think the bottom line that everyone's going to agree on is that you really do need to be very careful and do your homework before you move forward with the builder. So these are just some of the questions. Like I said, this
Yeah.
deck will be available, so we're not going to go through all of these, but these are the questions that we recommend asking to the people, to the referral source. So you found a builder, they give you 3 references. These are the questions you ask the references, not the builder. Did the builder come in on time and on budget? Were there change orders, et cetera, right? Annie, you want to go over these red flags?
Yes, so multiple licenses under different names, we've seen that where they just change one letter of their name. Multiple bond companies, which I've already spoken to. In business less than 3 to 5 years. You want someone who has experience and knows how to navigate this, and building after disaster is completely different than simply building a home. Claim to be local, but they have out-of-area phone numbers and not licensed in your state. No permanent business location. And if they start asking, this was a huge red flag in my neighborhood. How much insurance do you have? I'll build for that. In many cases, people were grossly underinsured, and obviously they couldn't build a quality home for that.
Okay, pre-construction best practices. We recommend having a professional review the contract. Make sure that it specifies overhead and profit. What's the percentage? That's a soft cost. What's the project schedule? Is it spelled out? The payment schedule? Look for what's not in there. Penalties for not meeting targets, start and end date, etc. Who's responsible for paying for materials? These are things that you want spelled out in the contract. And I know there are a lot of resources out down there. Probably, I'm sure Lori's group is doing this that will help. I know legal aid will review contracts. But let me ask Amy, what about escalating material prices due to tariffs? I mean, there's no getting around that. Am I right?
Yeah, we haven't seen too much of that. Things are creeping up a little bit. People are starting to say January 1st, we're gonna have a price increase. The only thing I'm worried about is like the big items, basically concrete and lumber, because during COVID, we saw massive escalations.
Okay, all right. So the contract should outline the scope of work, etc. The draw schedule should be consistent with or more favorable than your lender's schedule. Now, be wary of a contractor who wants fuller cash payments before the job begins. I think there's some confusion as to the California law here. Amy, do you want to speak to this on the
Sure.
deposit?
Yeah. So that deposit that you have outlined there used to just be for remodels. Apparently, a law was passed in response to shady contractors taking advantage of people, where for disaster only, you can only take a deposit of $1,000 or 10%, whichever is less, which is the remodel law. There is a workaround because otherwise your contractor is completely cash flowing your job by tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you use an escrow account, which protects the homeowner. That way, that's the way you can get around not having to completely, give all your money to a contractor, but yet the contractor's not cash flowing your job.
Okay. All right. Best practices for avoiding delays in we heard Kim say this, we heard Amy say this. Select your finishes in advance, make as many decisions in advance as you can. Change orders. Um, Annie, I hear about change orders on every project. It seems like it's a fact of life. Either Annie, you want to speak to it, or Kim?
Yeah, so I'm just going to say very quickly that change orders become problematic in the sense that it can delay, it can make your build the time frame longer. Some change orders are just because whatever product you picked out may have been discontinued. You may not have a lot of control over that, but you do want to make sure that that if you have change orders, that they're necessary and that they're well documented.
Kim, did you want to, it looked like you had something you want to say.
I definitely have something to contribute about change orders. Everything you're doing is trying to avoid a change in the field. So where we see the biggest problems come up in construction is when the plan sets are incomplete, and when the plans from the structural engineer, the civil, all the different professionals that put together a portion of your plan set, when there hasn't been a conflicts check done between those plans. So we will not let construction start on any of our jobs until we've created an integrated BIM model that incorporates the survey, the electrical engineer, the architect, all the engineering plans together to make sure there's no conflicts. So we don't want ducts running through the middle of a room. We don't want staircases that don't have enough clearance on the head height. I mean, you cannot believe the things that come up that aren't caught during the planning stage. And then you get into the field and you have all kinds of problems. So
That's kind of why you emphasize
in check is
ahead.
absolutely the most important thing that your professional team can do for you. And as a homeowner, that would be one of my interview questions. Do you have it in your process to do a complete BIM model before we start construction? So that's just my 2 cents after thousands of homes.
Yeah, okay. All right, this is a short section. How long are permits currently taking to get approved? And how important is it that your builder be familiar with those rules? Well, we heard Alex, I believe you said 70 to 75 days in Altadena. Is that right, Alex?
So for like a custom design bid build, it's I think around 90 days is typically, which is actually such a huge increase from what it was pre-fire.
Okay.
But still, yeah, that's 3 months kind of on average, I think is kind of what it's tracking, yeah.
How about Amy? Same, you agree? 3 months?
Yep.
Okay. How important is it that your builder be familiar with the rules? Well, I'd say that's kind of a easy question to answer. Very, very important. Very, very important. Do you need a landscaping plan from the get-go to get a permit? Any of my builders? Amy?
No, you don't. You should have them involved from the beginning because you don't want surprises, but you don't need it for your first submittal.
Okay. All right, avoiding problems and liens and then builder's risk. Annie, walk us through this slide. Just touch on it lightly. Thank you.
Yeah, so builder's risk is the insurance policy that you basically need to have a construction project, a remodel project. It's also called course of construction. You don't want to run out and get it yourself. Some contractors bring it. I know Amy's company supplies it. Either way, you will pay for it, but it's on top of the liability that you initially put on your property. And so it's kind of layered. And it covers theft, damage, destruction. There is a lot of theft in a rebuild area. You know, you don't have streetlights. It's fair game, and the scallywags come out. So you want to make sure that you have it. You want the builder to set the limits so that they know how much the product they can have on the lot that's not secured. And you want them to set the time frame of the build because it's hard to extend it without getting pre-authorization from the insurance company. And it's hard to get another policy if you're just a month or two out.
Okay. So what will your home insurance cover? They will cover your liability if someone's injured on your property, but they will not cover the partially built structure or the materials or supplies that get damaged, destroyed, or stolen. So California law requires, a lot of people say, well, I don't know why I should keep insurance when there's no home there, right? So we have a publication that gives you suggestions, but on what to do. But California law does require your insurer to work with you to reduce your dwelling limits while there's no structure to insure. But UP recommends keeping some coverage in place for your own liability protection to cover contents as you replace them. And it'll be easier for you to be able to insure the rebuilt home if you've got a policy in place. I think, Annie, you want to hit these things?
Yeah, so what will void a builder's risk policy? Your builder or the homeowner walks away from the build. A homeowner puts personal property inside the home before getting that final certificate of occupancy. When you take out the policy, you can get an endorsement in there that you can put stuff in the house 30 days before occupancy. And verify with the insurance company that the policy can be extended if construction is not completed within the planned time frame. It becomes a little more difficult to get a policy when you're closer to completion.
Okay. We're going to skip this because we're really, well, all right, we'll do it quickly. What does builder's risk insurance typically cost? And let's hit you, Amy.
It's usually about $8,000 to $20,000 depending on the value of the home. And yes, we pass it on to the homeowner because it's the cost of the job.
Yep. And Kim, is it essential on every project regardless of location and scope?
We won't do a project without it.
Okay.
And we also like to have a builder's wrap policy. So you can't always get them, but it's another policy that's good to have.
Okay. Quality and fund control, inspections, draws, lender relations. Chris, what is your mortgage company or lender's role during construction if you have an existing loan or mortgage?
Yeah, so in the case of a construction loan product, which Bank of America does offer, not every lender does offer that solution. Our role is being able to work with the homeowner, the builder slash contractor on dispersing funds, right? And so being able to at every stage of the project, the key milestones, being able to disperse funds to pay the builder, the contractor, any out of costs related to the rebuild. That's our role there. We also, in the case of you have a mortgage with us, we have the insurance proceeds as well. So being able to disperse that at the appropriate time, working with the homeowner. Those are two big roles that we have as a lender.
Okay. Lori, do you want to speak to this? What's your lender's role during construction?
Yeah, I'd say it's ditto to what Chris just said. And then because we do project management work, those guys, are coordinating through escrow, every sign off. Everybody has to sign off before money's dispersed. Well, we try to get our money in, insurers' money in, other settlement type funds into escrow so that a family is not worried about any one of us taking advantage of them.
Yeah. So you can consider a private inspector from the very beginning. You may not be able to hire one after work has started. Typically, you're going to have 3 At the start, when the foundation's poured, before close-in and before final occupancy, we recommend you being present on site for the final inspection. Annie, why is it, what does that mean? Do not let your contractor get ahead of your agreed draw schedule and don't pay for work that's not been completed.
So if you don't use an escrow account or some sort of fund control, your builder can easily come to you and tell you that they need more money. And whether they have finished, if they have completed those milestones or not. So what we saw in my fire was smaller builders had a real challenge with being able to utilize insurance funds to do the rebuild. So the escrow account is what I recommend, because your builder can't get ahead of that. The bank is going to have to come out. They're going to send an inspector. They're going to say A, B, and C is done. That milestone has been completed. Now the builder gets a check. It also keeps you from a builder, going bankrupt or walking away with more money than what they're entitled to.
Okay, and this is what Annie was just talking about, is an escrow account adds protection for you, the homeowner, because it brings another pair of eyes on the project to make sure that it's proceeding on track. All right. Your lender should release your dwelling insurance proceeds. Any dwelling insurance proceeds above your outstanding loan balance belongs to you, not the lender. They will review and monitor the plan. We already talked about inspections being important. And then typically insurance proceeds up to a certain amount will be released in one payment, and then in thirds after that, after there's been an inspection. Most builders budget for 25% payments, and I guess remote inspections can happen. Do any of my builder experts disagree about the 25% payments as being typical? Amy's shaking her head, and so's Tim.
We use 10 draws.
Okay. Tim?
We use a milestone-based system, which is probably very similar to what Amy's doing with the 10 draws.
Okay.
I do want to say, could I just build on this point, because there's something really important people need to understand about the builder getting ahead. We do a lot of construction defect, and one of the number one issues that we deal with is general contractors who build ahead of schedule, telling the homeowner that they were 75% complete with something when they were only 10% complete. An owner's rep will help you manage that process. A good builder will have controls in place to manage that process. And if you're working with a third-party inspector and your bank on the construction draws, you can mitigate that. But it's a really big problem in the business.
But people getting ahead, builders getting ahead of, yep.
I'd
Okay.
say probably 60% of the construction defect work we do is that situation.
Okay. So this is a minor point, but every dollar matters. Interest earned on the escrow account should be paid to you when that account gets closed. There was a new law that got passed that took effect in August. So if you haven't started your project yet, then this law applies to you. And it should be, I believe it's 2%. Is that right, Annie? We'll double check that. Okay. We are almost in the home stretch. I want to say so much thanks to folks who've stuck with us. I know we're covering a lot of ground here, and we really appreciate it. We will certainly be doing follow-up programs where we will take questions, but for this one, we want to just get the information out there so you can absorb it and come back to it. Completing your project. What to be aware of, do a walkthrough inspection with your builder. These are all the things that you're going to need. You're going to need a certificate of occupancy. You're going to need lien releases. You're going to have to settle up with your builder, and then there are warranty issues, which we will not go into detail tonight on. Annie, walk us through what we're looking at here.
So this was the very start of the rebuild of my home in Coffee Park. Came around the corner one day and they were pouring the foundation. It was a very exciting day. And it put all of my neighbors, they were very excited, and then it gave them unprecedented anxiety because they didn't have a contract yet. They weren't starting. This is the framing. It's starting to look a little bit like a house. You can decipher the rooms. This is where they're doing the part that I love the most, the craftsman style. And this is completion.
And you can see that you built I don't know, you built a home that looks pretty resistant, wildfire resistant.
I did, and I did have to do some modifications afterwards because my home was built in 2018 and the IBHS standards came after. I now have metal gates in the last 5 feet on both sides of the house. I have cleared the first 5 feet of growth, and I did a lot of flagstone patio path to go around the house and into the back so that I would have that clearance for 5 feet.
So we're gonna have to get a new picture here because Laura's getting
Mhm.
sweating up there. I can see looking at the chips, the wood chips, and she's getting yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, listen, there's so much more, obviously, to all these facets of the mechanics of rebuilding, but we really wanted to give you an overview of the process. This is only year one. We know many of you are still very much mired in indecision, and you haven't settled and you don't know what your budgets are going to be. We will be offering lots more programming in the coming months and year ahead. But please, communicate with us, because the way that we curate our information that we present to you is based on keeping our ears to the ground, and knowing where you are in the process, and what you need. And that's what we're here for, is to answer your questions and to give you the information that we can. So please do make sure you're on our mailing list to know when we're doing events. Please take advantage of our survivor to survivor forums. That's where you can get it's a confidential space, a safe space online. Annie is our main moderator. A number of other of our previous disaster survivor volunteers are there to help you feel supported in a safe place, but with people who are right where you are.
And
Or
we do have a special. We just had a survivor to survivor the other night. We do have a special coming up. It's focused really on the holidays and what you could expect, some of the challenges, because you guys are going into a rough patch here with the holidays, your anniversary of the fire. So join us and let's share that time.
So you can see November 25th, this coming Tuesday. And then, as I said, you can always see recordings of our past events and download related resources. We've got 2 contents workshops coming up, one in Pasadena, one in Palisades. Everything we offer is free. You can also use our Ask an Expert forum if you are bummed out that you didn't get to ask questions tonight. You can use the Ask an Expert forum to post your questions. I want to thank our funders, the California Community Foundation, the Pasadena Community Foundation, the Anthony Pritzker Family Foundation, the Emergency Network of Los Angeles. Our incredible panel, our patient and generous professional volunteer panel tonight. Laura, Amy, Alex, Chris, Lori, Kim, Annie, thank you so, so, so much. I hope all of you got what you needed. And if you didn't, that you will come back to us and tell us what more you need. So thank you for your time, your attention. We are rooting for your recovery. Good evening.